Hello, I'm Sarah Collins. In the world of geopolitical analysis, we often talk about grand strategy, national interests, and shifting alliances. But the most critical theater of operations in 2026 isn't a battlefield in Eastern Europe or a trade terminal in the South China Sea. It is the circuit breaker located in your garage. Welcome to Insight with Sarah. Today, we are dissecting a crisis that has been decades in the making, but is reaching its critical mass right now: the grid fracture. For the American homeowner, the year 2026 marks the definitive end of the era of cheap and easy energy. If you have opened your utility bill recently and felt a pang of disbelief, you are not alone. But you might be misdiagnosing the cause. This isn't just standard inflation or simple corporate greed. It is the domestic fallout of a massive global realignment. We have transitioned from a localized energy market to a globalized one, and in that transition, the American consumer has lost their home field advantage. Over the next hour, we are going to look at why being the world's largest energy producer hasn't lowered your bills, why our physical grid is failing at the exact moment we need it most, and most importantly, how you can build a personal energy firewall to protect your home from the shocks yet to come. To understand your 2026 utility bill, you first have to understand the export paradox. For years, the political slogan was energy independence. The promise was simple. If America produced enough oil and gas to meet its own needs, we would be insulated from the whims of foreign powers and the volatility of global markets. By 2026, the data is in. America is, by almost every metric, energy independent. We are the world's leading producer of crude oil and the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, or LNG. But here is the paradox. As we became the world's gas station, we stopped being our own best customer. Historically, natural gas was a landlocked commodity. If you pumped it in Texas, you sold it in Chicago. Because it was difficult to move across oceans, American prices were dictated strictly by American supply. Then came the LNG revolution. We built massive liquefaction terminals on the Gulf Coast, turning that gas into liquid and shipping it to Europe and Asia, where buyers are willing to pay 3, 4, or 5 times the domestic price. In 2026, U.S. LNG exports have reached record levels. That is gas that is no longer available for domestic heating or power generation at discount prices. By exporting our surplus, we have tethered the price of your kitchen stove to the demand in Berlin and Tokyo. This global integration has created a permanent price floor. In the past, a mild winter in the Midwest meant a crash in gas prices and a win for your wallet. Today, if it is cold in Seoul, that gas goes to Korea and your prices remain elevated. We are producing more than ever, but we are competing with the rest of the world for our own molecules. The result is that wholesale power prices in the U.S. have surged significantly. National energy dominance has been achieved, but at the cost of domestic energy affordability. For the homeowner, the geopolitical win has become an economic loss. While the price of energy is being driven by global markets, the reliability of your power is being undermined by a much more physical, much more neglected problem: infrastructure decay. In the media, the debate is often framed as green energy versus fossil fuels. As a systems analyst, I can tell you that is the wrong debate. Whether your power comes from a coal plant or a wind farm, it still has to travel through the same aging, fragile, and overstressed delivery system. The Achilles heel of the 2026 grid is a piece of equipment you probably never think about: the distribution transformer. These are the gray canisters on utility poles that step down high-voltage power for home use. The statistics are clinical and alarming. More than 50% of U.S. distribution transformers are currently operating beyond their intended $25-year service life. In 2020, a utility could order a transformer and receive it in 3 months. In 2026, the lead time for large power transformers often exceeds 2 years. We import roughly $80% of our large power transformers. We are trying to run a 21st century economy, fueled by AI data centers and electric vehicles, on a mid-20th century backbone. The grid fracture occurs when the demand for electricity hits the physical wall of equipment failure. When a transformer blows today, there isn't always a spare in the warehouse. Furthermore, the cost of fixing this is being passed directly to you. Your delivery fee is often growing faster than the supply fee. You are paying more for a system that is becoming less reliable. This is not a political failure, it is a structural one. We deferred maintenance for 40 years, and the bill has finally come due. So, how do you respond? As a homeowner, you cannot change the price of LNG or manufacture a transformer. Your strategy must shift from consumption to sovereignty. You need to build a firewall between your home and the volatile outside world. I don't recommend most people try to go 100% off-grid. The math rarely works for a standard suburban home. Instead, I advocate for an off-grid-lite strategy. This means staying connected to the utility for your baseload, but having the internal capacity to survive when the grid fails or prices spike. The first line of defense is the insulation audit. Before you buy a single solar panel, you must address leakage. In systems analysis, you never increase input before you minimize waste. Your goal is to reduce your thermal load. Deep energy retrofits. Attic insulation, air sealing, and high-efficiency heat pumps typically have a better return on investment than any battery system. In 2026, the cheapest kilowatt hour is the one you do not use. Next is the implementation of battery backups. Residential energy storage has finally matured. By 2026, battery pack prices have stabilized. A standard 10 kW text watt yao to 20 kW text one system can run your critical loads, fridge, Wi-Fi, and basic lights, during a multi-day outage. Many modern systems also allow for time-of-use optimization. You charge the battery from the grid when rates are low at night and discharge it to power your home when rates are high in the afternoon. This is how you play the utility's own game. Finally, adopt a sovereignty mindset. True energy sovereignty is about fuel optionality. It means having a wood-burning stove as a backup for heat, a manual transfer switch for a portable generator, or a solar array that can island itself from the grid during a blackout. It is about moving the point of failure from the utility's transformer to your own property line. As we look toward the future, we must realize that power is the ultimate asset. We often think of our homes as shelters, but in the 2020s and beyond, we must view them as assets in a resource-constrained world. The grid fracture is a reality of our time. The geopolitical realignment that began in the early 2020s has permanently altered the cost structure of the American life. The days of treating electricity as a cheap, infinite background utility are over. But this isn't a message of despair. It is a call to professionalize your household management. By understanding the export paradox and the infrastructure crisis, you can stop being a victim of utility shock and start becoming an independent operator. Your mission is simple: secure your inputs, minimize your waste, build your firewall. Because in the world of 2026, power is the ultimate asset. To expand further on the geopolitical mechanics at play, we must look at the specific regions that are driving this demand. Since 2022, the European continent has undergone a radical decoupling from Russian pipeline gas. This created an immediate high-priority vacuum that only U.S. LNG could fill. While this was a masterstroke of transatlantic security, it effectively merged the North American gas market with the European energy crisis. When you pay your utility bill in Ohio or Florida, you are essentially bidding against a municipal utility in Germany that is desperate to keep its industrial base from collapsing. This is the reality of the globalized energy map. There is no longer such a thing as local gas. Furthermore, we are seeing a massive surge in domestic demand that the grid was never designed to handle. The rise of generative AI has led to a gold rush in data center construction. These facilities operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, consuming massive amounts of electricity to cool the servers that power our digital world. In states like Virginia and Ohio, data centers are now consuming a double-digit percentage of the total available power. When you combine this with the push for the electrification of home heating and transportation, the margin of safety on the electrical grid has narrowed to its thinnest point in history. This demand surge is happening at the exact same time that baseload power plants, mostly coal and older nuclear facilities, are being retired faster than new generation can be brought online. This creates a supply-demand scissors effect that is cutting directly into the reliability of the system. From a systems perspective, the U.S. electrical grid is the largest machine ever built by man, but it is a machine that is currently being pushed far beyond its operational parameters. Most of the high-voltage transmission lines in this country were installed in the 1960s and 70s. These lines have a lifespan, and we are reaching the end of it. The physical sagging of lines under high heat, the corrosion of towers, and the vulnerability to extreme weather events are all symptoms of a system in distress. When a storm hits in 2026, the outages last longer not because the crews aren't working hard, but because the system lacks the redundancy and the spare parts to recover quickly. This is why personal resilience is no longer a hobby for survivalists. It is a necessary management strategy for every homeowner. When we talk about the math of Off-Grid-Lite, we have to be very clinical about the numbers. The average American home consumes about $30 kW of electricity per day. During a crisis or a period of high prices, you can easily cut that in half by eliminating non-essential loads like clothes dryers, dishwashers, and excessive air conditioning. A $10 kW solar array paired with a $20 kW battery system can essentially make a home power neutral for a significant portion of the year. While the upfront cost is high, the 2026 landscape offers various tax incentives and financing models that treat energy upgrades as home equity investments rather than just expenses. You are essentially prepaying for 20 years of electricity at a fixed rate, protecting yourself against the inevitable 5% to 10% annual increases from the utility. Beyond the hardware, there is the social component of the grid fracture. As power becomes more expensive and less reliable, we are seeing a resource stratification in American neighborhoods. Homes with solar, batteries, and high-efficiency systems are maintaining their value and their comfort, while homes dependent entirely on the aging grid are seeing their operational costs skyrocket. This is creating a new kind of energy class divide. As a systems analyst, my goal is to ensure you are on the right side of that divide. Security in 2026 is not about how much money you have in the bank. It's about how much control you have over your essential needs. To conclude this deep dive, let us look at the roadmap for the next 12 months. Your first step is an energy audit that goes beyond a simple walkthrough. Use thermal imaging to find the leaks in your home's envelope. Your second step is to evaluate your critical loads. If the power goes out for 3 days, what do you actually need to keep running? This list is usually shorter than you think. Your third step is to look at your utility's rate structure. Are they moving to time-of-use pricing? If so, your behavior must change. Shift your heavy usage to the super off-peak hours. Finally, consider the hardware of sovereignty. Even a small portable solar generator is better than nothing. It provides a bridge. It provides peace of mind. The 2026 energy shock is not a temporary blip. It is the new baseline. The global competition for resources is intensifying, and the physical infrastructure of the old world is fraying. By taking action now, you aren't just saving money. You are opting out of a failing system. You are taking back the power, literally and figuratively. In the theater of geopolitics, the smallest unit of defense is the household. Secure yours. I'm Sarah Collins, and this has been Insight. We will continue to monitor the movements of the global grid and the markets that drive it. Until next time, keep your systems checked and your reserves ready. The fracture is here, but your home can be the exception. Stay grounded and stay powered.